What's up guys, my name is Connor. This channel is Catch and Chase. In today's video, we're going to be going over Finesse swim baits. I got some good underwater footage to show you guys the difference between each swim bait and which way they move. And we're going to go over what rod, what reel, what line, everything I use for Finesse swim baits. Let's get right into it. Alright guys, first thing I'm going to go over is the rod specifics. My rod that I like to use is actually a 7'6" medium light, and that is technically a hair jig rod, but it works well for small little tiny swim baits like these right here. These little 2.75 quarter ounce and less swim bait. That rod is fantastic. So I use a 7'6". It's very long, very limber. I can cast that bait a mile. I can get it way out there in that clear water, far away from the boat, far away from the bank, so those fish have no idea I'm even there. And for reel, I use a 2500 spinning reel. I don't use anything bigger just because it's a little bulky, and a 2500 spinning reel just works well for what I use it for. And line wise, I use 8-pound Power Pro Super Slick braid to a long 6-pound fluorocarbon leader, and that right there will let you bomb casts. If you could, I can throw that bait almost 100 yards with from anywhere from a 1/16 ounce to a quarter ounce. That rod, reel, line is the absolute perfect setup for small little tiny swim baits like these ones right here. So right there, that rod and reel, absolute best for finesse swim baits. Getting into specifics on which jig heads I like to throw for largemouth, smallmouth with these finesse swim baits is I really tone it down to 2 different jig heads. Number 1 for me is this Dirty Jigs guppy head. It's got that 90-degree lie tie. It's got, you see that tapering head. So this thing is just going to go through the water. It's going to cut through, and it's going to limit the wobbling action of each bait. As you can see in some of this underwater footage coming up, that there is some wobble to some of these baits. But when I'm going finesse, I want that bait to basically almost, for a swim bait, I almost want it to do nothing. I just want that tail to go back and forth. I don't want too much shimmy, don't want too much wobble. And then the second jig head I like to throw is just your standard ball head jig. This one also has a 90-degree line tie. That 90-degree line tie actually helps you get snagged less. It goes through cover so much better than your 45-degree angle line tie. So those 2 jig heads right there, that ball head jig and that guppy head jig, are my 2 favorite jig heads to throw on these finesse swim baits. So finesse swim baits are one of my favorite all-time baits to throw when those fish are very finicky in the springtime, summertime, fall time, even wintertime. You can catch fish on a finesse swim bait. You just got to change up your cadence a little bit for timings of year and water temperature. But that finesse swim bait is just a bite getter. It looks like a little tiny shiner or a tiny shad down there in the water. You can mimic that bait to look like a dying shiner, a dying shad, by reeling it, stopping it, letting it go to the bottom, popping it up off the bottom. It's just, you can get a reaction bite from a finesse swim bait, which is wild because look how that's a tiny little bait, but it will catch anything big, small, medium. You know, it can catch anything from 6 inches to 6 pounds to 10 pounds. It's one of my favorite baits by far. So let's get into the swim baits. So let's get into some of the swim baits I like to throw. I'm going to go over this first swim bait right here, and the first swim bait I'm going to go over is this Keitech Easy Shiner. These baits, as everybody knows, Keitech is extremely soft and they're salt infused. So they are kind of a sinking swim bait when it comes to it. They are a little bit different than some of your floating swim baits. So this one right here, as you can see, has that little bit taller body going into that long, skinny tail. And then it's got a very sleek, let's see if I can show you guys, very sleek profile. So it's going to have a little bit less wobble in the water, and it's going to have that big tail kicking action. And as you guys can see in this underwater footage, that big tail kicking action actually makes the entire bait look like almost looks like a snake in the water. It has the head moving, it's got the tail moving, and that's going to draw fish in from tens to 20 yards away in that clear water, and they're going to come up and they're just going to smash it. So right there, Keitech Easy Shiner, very, very good bait. So the next swim bait I'm going to go over is the 2.8 inch Swing Impact by Keitech. It's another bait in that Keitech category. It's extremely soft bait, as you could see. I just ripped it. Well, that one's ruined. But same thing you can see in this underwater footage. That big boot tail on the back is got way more of a wide swing back and forth, more so than the Easy Shiner does. And it's got a little bit more roll action into it because that head of that bait is a little bit more fat. So it does have a little bit more of a roll to it, but not too much. But Swing Impact, another one of my favorite finesse swim baits. Now let's get into my two favorite swim baits for finesse fishing. Alright, the third swim bait I'm going to go over is the Megabass Spark Shad. This is the 3-inch version. As you can see, this bait has a flat top and a little bit of a curved belly. So this bait in the water, as you can see in this underwater footage, it actually does have quite a bit of roll to it. And it's got more of a subtle kicking action. It's got more of a quicker kicking action than the Swing Impact and the Easy Shiner does. And this one, I don't know what it is about this swim bait, but it just catches fish flat out. I don't know what it is about it. The only problem I have with these first three swim baits are they tear extremely easy. But right there, Megabass Spark Shad, definitely, it's my top two favorite finesse swim bait. Now let's get into top one. Alright, let's get into number one on my favorite finesse swim bait. And it's something that actually just came out this year in the early spring. And that is the Great Lakes Finesse 2.75 Drop Kick Shad. Now this bait was actually, I think, designed to be used for drop shotting more often than not, but it is so good on a little ball head or this guppy head. And as you can see, this bait, it's a little bit more of a firmer plastic, so you can catch, I would say, 15 fish on it before you have to change it out. As in a Spark Shad or Keitech, you have to change that bait out almost after a bite. You almost have to change that bait out after catching at least one fish. But these Spark Shads, as you can see, this one's beat up. I've caught so many fish on this bait right here alone that I don't know. Honestly, I don't know what to say. Great Lakes Finesse has got it figured out. It takes next to nothing to get that boot tail going. And as you can see in this underwater footage, this bait has almost no roll, but that little tiny boot tail on the back is like a machine gun. It just goes fast. So it's going to draw fish in from a long way away. But Great Lakes Finesse, you guys have made one of the best finesse swim baits I've ever seen. So shout out to you guys. There's one thing I actually forgot to mention about these drop kick shads is they're actually a buoyant bait. So since they were actually designed to be used on a drop shot, this bait will actually sit there and float perfect, like just perfectly horizontal like this. And that just drives fish insane. Is I can use a 1/16 ounce head on this thing with that 7/6 rod. I can bomb it out there, and I can basically just barely turn that reel. And that tail, like I said, it takes next to nothing to get that thing moving. So this bait right here has definitely became one of my top baits, and I'm definitely going to keep on using this thing in the future, for especially in these creeks, rivers, and clear lake systems. By far one of my favorite baits.